Alright, welcome back to the Mad County Build series, and the last show was on how to pour a concrete pad and sidewalk, and today we're just going to quickly talk about the stress cuts or the relief joints. There's a little bit of misconception with concrete. There's people that will get concrete done and then they'll get upset when their concrete cracks, and the fact is that concrete cracks. All concrete cracks. That's a guaranteed. So we use these relief cuts to control the cracking. So let's just talk about some of the important things of a slab. One of the most important things is what is below your slab, your pad, your sidewalk, and it needs to be, in my opinion, a good 3 to 4 inches of rock, compacted rock, and that provides a good base, solid base that allows any moisture to drain away from the slab, and which will alleviate heaving when it freezes in the winter. So that is one of the most important things to start out with, is your base. What does your slab sit on? Secondly is the pour itself. You want, if you're going to do it yourself, you got to have some good quality help. Concrete is one of those things that is very timely, and depending on the weather, it could be cloudy and then the sun could come out and that could really turn that concrete fast. So you got to have a little bit of experience when you're doing it. So if you're going to try it, start out with something small. I did a video not too long ago on how to pour a small concrete pad. That's something that is easily doable on yourself, but something this large is probably better off left to the pros, unless you have quite a few friends that have experience that can help you. And one of the most important things is, after the pour, where do you cut it and how do you cut it? So these cuts are done with a diamond blade. They have special equipment to do this. You can rent it, but typically, from what I was taught, is you want, and this depends on a little bit on when you cut it as well, but kind of the rule of thumb is 1/4 of the thickness of the slab is what you want your relief cuts. Now, there are guys that I've talked to that say you can cut it. The cuts don't have to be as deep if it's done earlier while the slab is still green. But like I said, I was taught 1/4 the thickness of the slab is a good rule of thumb. And as far as how big or how many cuts do you make, and is somewhere between 8 to 12 feet. Every 8 to 12 feet you want a cut. So if you can look out here on this slab, you can see that we have quite a few cuts here, and they're about every 10 feet. Now, you want to get it close, but what I like to do is I'll figure out how many cuts do I need to fall into that 8 to 10 foot range, and then I want it to lay out symmetrical. That's just how my mind works. I like things to be even. One of the things they ran into here, to create 3 equal spaces here, it would have put one of these stress cuts right in the middle of the sidewalk, and you don't want that. So we decided to make this stress cut die right along this sidewalk and then divide the rest of it equally, and that turned out really nice, and it looks very visually appealing. It's kind of nice to make it symmetrical. I mean, there are contractors out there that don't put a ton of thought into that, but there are some really good ones that will do that, and they make it look really nice. You can see here on my sidewalk, we have them spaced about every 4 feet, and then they go all the way. So once you got all your cuts made, I feel it's very important that you get these filled, especially before winter, because say you get snow and ice and it melts and it goes down in there and then freezes, it's going to expand and contract, which could potentially affect that concrete. So I like to fill them. I've always used concrete joint filler, but on this slab out here, I'm going to use polynumeric sand, and it's a sand that you brush in. They use it with pavers, and then you lightly wet it and it hardens. So that will keep the moisture and ice and snow from getting packed in there in the winter. And in all reality, another good thing it's for is so those don't fill up with dirt, and then you have grass and weeds and everything else growing out of those over time. So I'll take you along while I do that. I can tell you how it turned out. I used the concrete joint filler on in my garage and on my porch, and it worked great. It was just very time consuming, and I'm looking for something a little bit faster, and I think this polynumeric sand is going to be that. So, and then we're going to seal this with a penetrating sealer. So I typically, you know, wait 14 days or so. Some will say you got to wait till it's fully cured, but with some of this commercial grade sealer, you can do it as quick as 7 days after. The one thing we didn't talk about is reinforcement in the concrete. I try to always put rebar at 2 foot on center, and then you get those cuts made, and then when it cracks, that rebar, that reinforcement will hold the concrete where it's at. The rebar isn't necessarily going to hold your concrete up and keep it from falling. That's why you have to have a good base. What that rebar does is it holds it together, so when it cracks, it can't move laterally. And some mistakes that I see made on slabs is after the pour, homeowners don't get rock or dirt filled up around their pads, and over time water will come off that and it'll start washing out the rock, the fill underneath, and you're going to have all that leverage hanging out over there, and it is going to eventually move that slab even if there is rebar in there. So that's one last important thing you need to do, is make sure you get everything brought up around the slab in a timely manner. And that's one thing I got to do here, and I'll take you through that when I do that as well. This drops off way down here, and you can see we already got like an inch of rain the last couple days. You can see how that's already started to wash that out there. Now I'm not going to have a problem with this, because I'm going to get a bunch of rock and bring it up in here, and this will all be supported, and this won't be able to wash out underneath this. But this would be a problem if we didn't take care of this. That's kind of the what you need. You need good base, you need good concrete with good reinforcement, and then you need a good stress relief cut plan, and then you need to get those filled and the concrete sealed, and you should end up with a really good pad. But that'll be a wrap on this quick show. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I will bring you along when I fill these stress cuts and seal this. But thanks for watching, and we will catch you on the next video.